everyone, my name is Luna and I'm your local lore nerd ready to unpack all of the juicy tidbits dropped in episode 100 of campaign 3 of Critical Role, aka part 2 of Downfall. We're going to be jumping around to all of the interesting bits, but if you're after a blow-by-blow recap, make sure you are subscribed because I've got one coming your way on Wednesday. Whilst we are left with some big questions after this episode...
If I worship you with all my might, I will never die, maybe.
We did get some more confirmation about things that we speculated on last week, and look, I'm gonna address it right at the top. I was wrong about Umleta. I admit it. We got pretty clear confirmation this week that she is indeed the Spider Queen, and not Zahir, the cloaked serpent, like I thought.
You see that she looks up at you and smiles, and you see that she has this, she's sort of like roguish almost, and you see that she carefully takes this silken rope and begins to pack it around an elbow and a hand, creating a little coil that she tucks into this large black bag on her back.
Some of you pointed out how Brennan's role-playing or portrayal of Umleta really matched Abria's role-playing of the Spider Queen, which I think was a really astute observation. And I really enjoyed the scenes that she was in this episode. In fact, the scene where we got this, flag about her actually being the Spider Queen was really interesting in terms of the lore of Exandria.
And when I look at this stinking heap of buzzing flies, I see one rotting stench at the center, and it's a gift that they never should have got. Why don't you take some responsibility for why we're all here cleaning up your mess?
So as I talked about last week, S.I.L.A.H.A is the avatar of Corellon, the Archhard, the god of beauty, the arts, and magic. Corellon was the god responsible for gifting arcane magic to mortals, which is why Umleta blames him for this, whole predicament that all of the gods find themselves in. Divine magic is drawn directly from the gods, but once the gift of arcane magic had been given to mortals, they no longer needed the gods to access magic. Arcane magic does have its limits, though.
All that I have learned of magic, I cannot seem to bend it to doing that one thing I would most wish. I know that you are gone. There is a magic to you that eludes us even now. Please, look after Alice. Look after my boy.
While arcane magic can do many wondrous things, it is often divine magic that is responsible for healing. Corellon is said to have first created the elves, so there is a long-standing tension and conflict between Lolth, the Spider Queen, and the Archhard, because the Spider Queen is said to have drawn a lot of Corellon's followers away, and these followers eventually became the Drow. I thought it was really interesting that while S.I.L.A.H.A clearly despises the Spider Queen, her words obviously hit him hard, because he did confess later to Emissary that he does feel some responsibility and some guilt for having gifted mortals arcane magic, which then led to what's happening now in Eor. So I might have been wrong about Umleta, but at least I was right about Tishar. We did get confirmation that she is indeed Grumpsh the Ruiner, with this very funny little moment.
Hate to be on the mission with the couple. And who knew the Ruiner had jokes? Ruiner's got jokes.
Tishar also mentioned to the Emissary a battle fought at Vasselheim.
Maybe this time I remember Vasselheim. Don't let my left arm down so much.
At first, I thought this was in relation to the battle where Grumpsh lost an eye. It just kind of makes sense with the arm coming up and stuff, but that fight was with Corellon. So this just might be referencing the initial big battle that happened in Vasselheim once all of the betrayers were unleashed by Vespin Chloris. In a great scene between the Emissary and the Lawbearer, we also learned a little bit more about why the Lawbearer hasn't come in person.
I made you because as the hour approached, lines that appeared at first parallel converged. I love this world and its people. Love for me does not mean sentiment, nor passion. Love means honoring the agreements we have made. I would have our children know that I am reliable. And I know that I said that I would be there, but I arrived at an intersection where one promise or another would be broken. This world will keep putting me in this position. The lines are too complex while we walk in this place.
This shows that she is indeed leaning harder and harder into the idea that the gods only make things worse when they interfere in Exandria, an idea which ultimately ends up with her and the Platinum Dragon Bahamut going to Vasselheim at the end of the Calamity and saying, hey, we are actually going to leave Exandria, we're all going to go behind the Divine Gate, leaving mortals to their own devices, apart from the odd divine intervention here and there. As the Lawbearer spoke with the Emissary, she activated something inside him and tells him that the world will not thank him for half measures. To me, this just solidifies that the Emissary is carrying a doomsday device that will likely be detonated at the end of this series. We already saw this moment of the end of Eeyore through Frida's memory in episode 58.
There is an engine of such immensity within this space, sourceless, that the entirety of the chamber itself vibrates. The ground beneath you shakes, and stones and fallen instruments just move and jiggle and cascade across the ground by the immensity of what is growing within. The crystals are alighting. The space itself is preparing for something incredible. Then there's just white.
In that vision, the people attacking the Factorum Malleus are dressed similarly, and, there's this realization that the attack is coming from inside the house. So I wonder if we're going to see the Society of Primes, which is the society Archmage Cassida is a part of, involved in that assault on the Factorum Malleus, which I assume we're going to see in the last episode of this series. As has been said multiple times about Downfall, the ending is inevitable. We know that Eeyore is going to be destroyed. So I think that the mysterious and interesting parts of the story that we have to look forward to are much more to do with the gods' interactions with each other and the ultimate decision in the end of how they're going to go about destroying this city. Asha and Imhira, they really think that they should just destroy it outright, whereas Aiden and Trist are more about no, let's see what we can to, preserve as much of the city as we can. So I think that tension and the arguments and debates about that we're hopefully going to see next week are going to be very, very interesting. Oh, I want to talk about my absolute favorite part of the episode, which was inside S.I.L.A.H.A's speakeasy. It made me so happy that we got an injection of, some whimsy and wonder in a pretty grim series. I absolutely loved the bartender 4X.
Have I been busy? Always busy. Hi, miss, can I get you a drink?
No.
Forex, we're wondering if you could help us.
And I don't know if I'm the only one, but it just kind of made me wonder, is that a reference to Australian beer, 4X? I don't think so. It's not very classy. I also loved the speakeasy host chorus and the Aormaton lock on the door.
As always, an honor to make a path for the chosen one.
And the head spins around. And as it spins
I
around...
was hoping we would get to see a bit more of the general population and meet some, regular folks of Eeyore, and I honestly don't think that there's going to be much more time for that next episode, because it seems like we're going to have a big dragon fight and stuff like that. So I'm glad that we did at least get to see this space and sort of just see a little bit more about what is in Eeyore. And a place like this makes a lot of sense in a sort of brutalist world. There's lots and lots of instances of little pockets of art and celebration and revelry popping up in times of hardship and sorrow, and people just need somewhere to escape sometimes, It's also very clever of S.I.L.A.H.A to set up a space where he is essentially being worshipped, not for his true form of Corellon, but as, the chosen one. It was just really awesome also seeing all of the gods tap into their divine power. So we saw S.I.L.A.H.A do it first, getting to see their true form character portraits, which are just so stunning. I feel like these would make beautiful art prints, a series of them. I think I want them hanging on all of my walls. I kind of wish we'd gotten these same character portraits for the Betrayers as well. I mean, there's still time. Maybe we will next week, but I feel like they probably would have shown them already if that's the case. I would have really loved to have seen their mortal forms and true forms as well. So in S.I.L.A.H.A's speakeasy, which is actually called Ars Elysia, we had a very interesting confrontation with a planetar, a celestial being who served in the Dawn Father's armies.
Calamity, fading, this great destruction. Dominus gone. Marquette burned. Exandrians dead. us marching to war over and over and over again for those that cannot die and seem unwilling to kill each other. Cries of misery and destruction were not enough to stay your hands. What stayed the hands of the gods? What called truce between you and the... And here, before he can even say betrayers, you watch a celestial crafted to defeat the forces of evil, made by your hands to fight in holy war, who has been left for years without your guidance or instruction in a truce you called.
This was fascinating because I hadn't really considered how all of those divine beings, that had been created for this war would take, being created to fight evil, to fight the betrayer gods, only to have a truce called so that the prime deities could destroy the very mortals that they began the war protecting in the first place. Like, it is pretty messed up. This line in particular was very powerful.
To the hands that move creation, if you wanted to make us to serve the gods, you should not have made us good.
I think this ties in really well with the debates that we sort of see in critter spaces about the gods. Are the gods good or bad? And is that even a question that we should be asking in a D&D game, of a fantasy world? I think in a lot of fantasy settings, whether that's, games or books or movies, whatever, there is often a straight line between good and evil. But Critical Role has been leaning harder and harder into sort of more shades of grey, especially from campaign 2 onwards, I think. I think what this series is demonstrating is that in Exandria, the gods may lean good or evil, but in reality, when you're making decisions that affect the entire world, the line is not always so clear. A good decision may not be good for everybody, just like a bad decision may not end up being bad for everybody as well. I think that's exactly what the Lawbearer was getting at every time they dip their hand in to, knock the path of Exandria back onto a track. They inevitably end up warping things so that the lines are not so clear. This sort of world building is not going to suit every game, but for Critical Role, which really at its core is made up of a lot of interpersonal drama and tough choices, I think it does make perfect sense. Anyway, I'm really curious to know your thoughts about, this whole situation. How are you finding watching the gods grapple with these choices? Let's talk about the scenes in the hospital with Trist and the boy Hallis and his mother, the Archmage Cassida. I really enjoyed this because it was lovely to see Trist, or the Everlight, I suppose, in her element, practicing compassion and the impact that had on the story. Plus, we also got some really great scenes between Aiden and Father Milo. I love that anytime we get it, where they ask each other, what happens after this? What happens after Aor? I mean, we know the prime deities seal away the betrayer gods once again and, go away themselves. But for Aiden and Father Milo, in this moment, it seems like this is a sort of never-ending conflict or war that has no resolution because they both believe they are right and they really can't be persuaded either way from their position. I also really liked the scene where Aiden reached out, himself to the Dawnfather.
As you sent me to help her, let me be that hope. Let me be a new dawn. I'm trying.
The Father shows you the vastness of this world, the heaviness and weight of all that the Son beholds, and you feel sorrow, because the Son knows what it means when a boy promises to hold up the world and let nothing fall.
Talking about this on stream last week, I was wondering how much of the actual big celestial spaces god was in these mortal forms, or if it was more of an offshoot that could then form different opinions based on their own mortal experiences. And I think, at least in Aiden's case, it seems like it is that latter option. In fact, Nick referred to Aiden as the Dawn Child on Twitter, acknowledging that he isn't actually the Dawn Father. But I think in maybe some other examples, maybe with like S.I.L.A.H.A and Emissary, there isn't as much of a divide between the two forms. All right, 2 quick things before we wrap up. We got a little nod to EXU Calamity this week with the tree S.I.L.A.H.A communes with being a gift from the Golden Scythe, which is actually the Merchant Guild of Avalier, another flying city, led by Nidus, who was Lou Wilson's character in EXU Calamity. It was fun, you could tell that Nick had recently watched EXU Calamity because he immediately picked up on that. And I also thought it was just really, really cool how Emissary had the same boots of haste, just like her future champion Vax. That was a really fun little nod. Oh, and I want to quickly acknowledge this theory that a lot of you had in the comments of my last video about the Luxon, how I was like, it's still connected. A lot of you suggested that potentially the Luxon beacons are actually fragments of the ship that they sailed on from Tengar, that when the ship kind of crashed, it broke up and that formed these beacons. And I think that's a really fun idea. It makes sense to me because the Luxon myth is about a light coming to Exandria. It still doesn't explain the timeline about when the primordials were created in the Luxon myth, but I really, really like that idea. I think it is a solid theory. I enjoy it. I'm so sad we only have 1 more episode of this series. I really wish we could have had more episodes. I just feel like there's more there to unpack. And, you know, we really could have gotten into some of these god relationships a bit more. Plus, just to be real, I love Brennan. He's just so damn good at what he does. He can make anything seem mysterious and lofty.
Stain shall have been parted from cloth as the light is parted from the darkness. Okay? Everyone's laughing it up, and I am fucking deadly serious, okay?
Matron Raven's here. You need help getting stains out of your dress?
I've been dipping these raven feathers in pizza grease all morning, and I want you to watch what happens next.
As always, please let me know your thoughts in the comments about this episode, as well as any other lore tidbits you came across. I know there were a few other things I didn't get a chance to touch on. I just love to hear all of your opinions. If you want to keep the discussion going, then you can jump into my Discord, where we have live watch parties each week and lots of different discussion channels. And if you need a refresher about what happened in part 1 of Downfall, you can check out my full recap of that episode right here. Wait, it's here. Wait, no, I can put it wherever I want. I'm the boss of this place. Bye.